The massive cargo ship Thunder Bay moved through space like a metal mountain, floating among the stars. Inside its long corridors, different alien creatures worked at their stations, each one believing they were far superior to the newest species in the galaxy. The humans were still considered primitive by most aliens, barely worthy of the simple jobs they were given. Jake Murphy wiped sweat from his forehead as he finished cleaning the air filters in Section 7. At 28 years old, he had been working on alien ships for 3 years now, sending most of his pay back to Earth to help his sick mother and pay off the family farm. The alien crew treated him like he was invisible most days, which was fine by Jake. He preferred the quiet work in the maintenance areas to dealing with their constant remarks about how stupid humans were. Captain HFY stood nearly 8 feet tall, his blue skin shining under the bridge lights. His people, the Veltari, had been traveling between stars for over 2,000 years. They considered themselves the natural leaders of space travel. Next to him stood Sub-Commander Krell, whose 4 arms moved quickly over different control panels. The Thrakari were known for being excellent at managing multiple tasks at once, something they often reminded humans about. The approach to Kepler Station should be routine, Krell said, his voice sounding like gravel in a metal box. The AI system shows no problems with navigation. Navigator Yith clicked his mandibles together, a sound that meant agreement among his insect-like people. The Zephyrians were proud of their ability to calculate complex space routes in their heads, though they had been using computer systems for so long that few of them remembered how to do it manually anymore. All systems show green, reported Chief Engineer Vorak. The crystalline being's voice echoed strangely, as if it came from inside a cave. His people, the Nixari, had built some of the most advanced ships in the galaxy. They often reminded others that human technology was barely worthy of being called primitive. In the communication station, Plex's gaseous form swirled inside his environmental suit. The Etherians needed special equipment to interact with solid matter, but they were excellent at managing long-distance communications across space. Even Plex looked down on humans, despite needing a machine just to touch anything. Jake finished his work and was heading back to the maintenance bay when the ship suddenly shuddered. It was not a normal movement. Ships this size moved smoothly through space, guided by AI systems that had been perfected over centuries. This felt wrong. Red lights began flashing throughout the corridor. Jake had never seen that happen before. Emergency alarms started making loud, harsh sounds that hurt his ears. He could hear alien voices shouting from the direction of the bridge. "What is happening?" Captain HFY's voice boomed over the ship's communication system. "Report." Jake found himself moving toward the bridge. Even though maintenance workers were not supposed to go there during emergencies, something inside him felt like he needed to see what was wrong. On the bridge, chaos had taken over. The main navigation display showed red warning messages in several alien languages. The AI voice that normally guided the ship had gone completely silent. Backup systems that should have activated automatically were not responding. "The primary navigation is completely offline," Yith reported, his insect eyes wide with panic. "I cannot get any response from the AI core." Engineering reports that all mechanical systems are functioning normally, Vorak said, his crystalline form flickering with confusion. "The problem appears to be in the control systems only." Krell's forearms moved frantically over his control panel. "I am trying every emergency protocol we have. Nothing is working. The ship is not responding to any commands." Captain HFY's blue skin had turned a darker shade, which Jake knew meant the alien was very worried. "How is this possible? These systems have never failed like this before." Plex's gaseous form swirled faster inside his suit. "Captain, I am detecting a large asteroid field directly ahead. If we cannot regain control soon, we will drift into it." Jake felt his stomach drop. Asteroid fields were dangerous for any ship, but especially for large cargo vessels like the Thunder Bay. The ship was too big to change direction quickly, and, without the AI system to calculate safe paths, they could easily crash into rocks the size of buildings. "Time until we reach the asteroid field?" the captain asked. "At our current speed, approximately 18 minutes, Yith replied. The bridge fell silent except for the constant beeping of warning alarms. Jake watched as each alien crew member tried different approaches to restart the systems. Nothing worked. The advanced technology that they all prided themselves on had simply stopped functioning. Try rerouting through the secondary command pathways, Captain HFY ordered. I have tried that 3 times, Krell replied. The system will not accept any commands. What about manual override protocols? Also non-functional, Captain. Jake noticed something strange on one of the displays. There was a message he had not seen before, written in simple text that he could actually read. Most of the ship's displays showed information in alien languages that Jake did not understand, but this message was in basic galactic standard. Primary pilot authorization required, the message said. Current crew insufficient, Captain, Jake said quietly. The aliens were too busy panicking to hear him. Captain, Jake said louder. HFY turned to look at him with obvious annoyance. Human, you should not be on the bridge during an emergency. Return to your station. Immediately. Sir, I think I see something important on that display, Jake said, pointing to the screen with the message. You cannot read our technical displays, Vorak said dismissively. Your species lacks the education for such things. It's in galactic standard, Jake insisted. It says the ship needs primary pilot authorization, and that the current crew is insufficient. The aliens looked at each other with confusion. Krell checked the display Jake had pointed to, his 4 eyes widening as he read the message. The human is correct, Krell said slowly. But this makes no sense. This ship has never required such authorization before. What does it mean? Captain HFY demanded. I do not know, Vorak admitted. Our ships have operated independently for generations. They have never needed special authorization from any species. The asteroid field was getting closer. Jake could see it now on the main viewing screen. Thousands of rocks floating in space like a deadly maze. Some of the asteroids were as large as city blocks, others as small as houses, but all of them could destroy the Thunder Bay if they hit at the wrong angle. 15 minutes until impact, Yeath announced, his voice cracking with fear. Jake looked around at the alien crew members, all of them frantically trying to restart systems that had worked perfectly for decades. He thought about his grandfather, Bill, who used to tell stories about the old days when humans actually flew ships by themselves, before AI took over everything. His grandfather had always said that computers were useful, but sometimes you needed a human touch to really understand how a ship wanted to fly, Captain, Jake said, his voice stronger now. Maybe the ship needs a human pilot. The bridge fell completely silent for several seconds. Even the alarm sound seemed quieter as every alien on the bridge turned to stare at Jake. Their expressions ranged from confusion to outright disbelief. Navigator Yeath was the first to break the silence. He made a chittering sound that Jake had learned meant laughter among the Zephyrians. A human pilot? That is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. Humans lack the neural complexity for 3-dimensional space navigation, Yeath continued, his insect-like head shaking back and forth. Your brains are simply not built for understanding the mathematics involved in spaceflight. Sub-Commander Krell's 4 arms gestured dismissively. Your species has only been in space for 200 years. Our ships are older than your entire civilization. The idea that they would need human pilots is absurd. Chief Engineer Vorak's crystalline form flickered with what Jake recognized as amusement. Human technology is barely capable of reaching your own moon reliably. Our vessels travel between star systems as easily as you walk between rooms. Captain HFY held up one large blue hand for silence. 12 minutes until we reach the asteroid field, he said, checking the navigation display. We do not have time for foolish suggestions. Jake felt his face burning with embarrassment, but he forced himself to continue. Captain, please just listen. My grandfather was a pilot back on Earth. He flew some of the first human ships that could travel between planets. Ancient history, Plex's voice echoed from his environmental suit. Even if that were true, it would be completely irrelevant to modern Starship operation. He used to tell me stories about how ships flew before AI took over everything. Jake pressed on. He said that sometimes computers could not handle certain situations, and you needed a person who could feel how the ship wanted to move. Krell, made a snorting sound. Feel how a ship wants to move. Ships are machines. They do not want anything. They follow programming and physics. 10 minutes, Yith announced, his voice rising with panic. Jake could see the asteroid field growing larger on the main screen. The rocks looked like a wall of death waiting for them. Some asteroids spun slowly, while others moved in unpredictable patterns. It would take incredible skill to navigate through them safely. Captain, all standard procedures have failed, Jake said desperately. What do you have to lose by letting me try? Our lives, Vorak replied coldly. If you damage the ship's systems further, we will definitely die. We are going to die anyway if nothing changes, Jake pointed out. The ship is not responding to any of you. Captain HFY looked around at his crew. Each of them was still, frantically trying different approaches to restart the navigation systems. Nothing was working. The Thunder Bay continued drifting toward the asteroid field like a giant metal coffin. 8 minutes, Yith said quietly. Jake took a deep breath. My grandfather taught me some basic piloting when I was young. I never told
anyone because it seemed useless on ships that fly themselves, but I remember what he showed me about reading ship movements and understanding how they respond to controls.
This is madness, Krill muttered. But Jake noticed that the aliens' 4 arms had stopped moving over his control panel. All their technological solutions had been exhausted. Captain, Vorak said suddenly, I am reading some unusual activity in the ship's core systems. The AI appears to be running background processes that I do not recognize. What kind of processes? HFY asked. I cannot tell. They are encrypted beyond my access level, but they began running the moment the humans suggested piloting the ship. Jake felt a strange sensation, as if something was calling to him. He looked at the pilot's control station, which had been dark and unresponsive for the past several minutes. Tiny lights were beginning to flicker on across its surface. 6 minutes to impact, Yith announced. Captain HFY stared at the approaching asteroid field, then at his panicking crew, then at Jake. His blue skin had turned almost purple with stress. Human Jake Murphy, if I allow you to try this, and you destroy my ship, I will personally throw you out the airlock. If I do not try, we are all going to die in 6 minutes anyway, Jake replied. The captain closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them. Very well, but if this fails, I want it on record that this was an act of desperation, not a recognition of human capability. Jake walked slowly toward the pilot's station. As he got closer, more lights began turning on across the control panel. The other crew members watched in amazement as systems that had been completely dead suddenly showed signs of life. How is that possible? Vorak whispered. Jake placed his hands on the control interface. The moment his skin touched the smooth, metal surface, the entire bridge transformed. Lights that had been dim brightened to full intensity. Displays that had shown only error messages suddenly filled with navigation data. Most importantly, the AI's voice returned. Human pilot detected, the computer announced in its calm mechanical tone. Full authorization granted. All systems, optimal. Navigation control transferred to biological pilot. The alien stared in shock as Jake's hands moved across the controls. He was not entirely sure what he was doing, but somehow his fingers seemed to know which buttons to press and which levers to adjust. It felt like riding a bicycle after years of not using one. The knowledge was still there, buried in his muscles and instincts. 5 minutes to asteroid field, the AI announced, but its voice no longer sounded urgent. Pilot, I am reading multiple safe pathways through the obstacle field. Shall I display optimal routes? Yes, Jake said, surprised by how confident his own voice sounded. The main screen changed to show the asteroid field with several glowing paths marked through it. Jake studied the options for a moment, but one particular route seemed to call to him. It was not the shortest path, and it was not the one the computer marked as safest, but something about it felt right. I am going to take us through there, Jake said, pointing to his chosen route. That path has a lower safety rating than the optimal route, the AI noted. I know, but it feels better to me. Jake gently pushed forward on the main control lever. The Thunder Bay responded immediately, turning toward the asteroid field with smooth precision. The ship moved differently now, Not like a machine following programmed instructions, but like a living thing responding to guidance from someone who understood its nature. 3 minutes to entry, the AI said. As they approached the first asteroids, Jake felt his grandfather's lessons coming back to him. Watch how the ship wants to move, Bill Murphy had always said. Do not fight against it, work with it. Jake made small adjustments to their course, weaving between the larger asteroids with growing confidence. The ship responded to his touches, like it had been waiting for this moment, its entire existence. Behind him, the alien crew watched in complete silence as the human they had dismissed as primitive guided their advanced starship through dangers that would have challenged their best pilots. Jake guided the Thunder Bay deeper into the asteroid field with movements that seemed impossible to the watching aliens. His hands moved across the controls like he was playing a musical instrument, making tiny adjustments that kept the massive ship flowing smoothly between rocks the size of mountains. How is he doing that? Vorak whispered, his crystalline form flickering with confusion. The calculations required for those maneuvers should take several minutes, even for our computers. Captain Zexhai watched Jake work with growing amazement. He is not calculating. He appears to be reacting purely on instinct. That should be impossible, Navigator Yith clicked nervously. Space navigation requires precise mathematical understanding. You cannot simply feel your way through an asteroid field, but Jake was doing exactly that. When a large asteroid suddenly shifted direction due to gravitational forces, Jake adjusted course before the ship's sensors even detected the change. When smaller rocks appeared unexpectedly around a corner, he seemed to know they would be there before seeing them. Warning, debris field ahead, the AI announced. Recommend course adjustment to avoid collision. Jake looked at the navigation display, then shook his head. No, we go straight through. The rocks are not as dense as they look. Human, that is extremely dangerous, Sub-Commander Krell said, his 4 arms gripping his control station. The computer is recommending the safer path. The computer only sees what the sensors tell it, Jake replied, his hands steady on the controls. But I can feel how the ship wants to move through the space. He pushed the Thunder Bay forward into what looked like certain death. Asteroids filled the view screen from edge to edge, spinning and tumbling in chaotic patterns. The alien crew held their breath as Jake wove the ship between rocks with only meters to spare on each side. Impossible. Plex's gaseous form swirled frantically in his suit. No biological being should be able to process that much spatial information simultaneously. 20 minutes later, they emerged from the asteroid field completely unharmed. The Thunder Bay had not suffered even a scratch despite navigating through what the aliens considered one of the most dangerous obstacles in this sector of space. We are clear, Jake announced, finally relaxing his grip on the controls. Kepler Station should be visible now. Sure enough, the mining station appeared on their view screen, its lights twinkling against the darkness of space. They had made it safely to their destination. The bridge remained silent for several long moments. Each alien crew member stared at Jake as if seeing him for the first time. The human they had dismissed as barely intelligent had just accomplished something that should have been impossible. Captain Zexhai was the first to speak. How did you do that? Jake wiped sweat from his forehead and turned away from the controls. I am not really sure. It felt natural, like something I had always known how to do. Natural? Yith's insect eyes bulged with disbelief. Advanced space, navigation is natural for humans? Maybe not all humans, Jake said thoughtfully. But my grandfather always said that some people had a gift for understanding how ships moved through space. He called it having space sense. After they docked at Kepler Station, Chief Engineer Vorak immediately began running deep diagnostic tests on the Thunder Bay's systems. What he discovered shocked everyone. Captain, you need to see this, Vorak called from the engineering section. His voice carried a tone none of them had heard before, uncertainty mixed with fear. The senior crew gathered around Vorak's analysis station. Multiple displays showed technical readouts that most of them did not fully understand, but the main conclusion was clear enough. The ship's core AI system contains programming subroutines that are not in any of our technical databases, Vorak explained. These programs have been running in the background for years, but they were never documented in the official ship specifications. What kind of programs? Captain Zexhai asked, They appear to be flight control algorithms, but they are completely different from standard galactic navigation systems. The mathematical approach is unlike anything our species developed. Sub-Commander Krell leaned closer to study the data. Where did these programs come from? Vorak's crystalline form dimmed with embarrassment. According to the code signatures, they appear to have been adapted from early human spaceship designs. The statement hit the bridge like a physical blow. No one spoke for several seconds. That is impossible, Navigator Yith finally said. Human technology is primitive. We have always been told that human ships barely function. I thought so too, Vorak admitted. But these algorithms are actually more sophisticated than our standard systems in many ways. They seem to be designed for biological pilot interface, rather than pure computer control. Captain Zexhai demanded access to the restricted files in the ship's memory banks. What they found there changed everything they thought they knew about galactic history. Decades ago, when humans first made contact with the galactic community, their ships had been studied extensively. The official reports claimed that human technology was crude and inefficient, but the classified files told a different story. Human vessels had shown remarkable abilities that alien ships lacked. They could navigate through dangerous areas that would destroy computer-guided ships. Human pilots seemed to have an intuitive understanding of three-dimensional space that no alien species possessed. Instead of admitting human superiority in this area, the galactic powers had secretly stolen human flight technology. They reverse-engineered the navigation systems and integrated them into their own ships, but they removed all evidence of human involvement. According to these files, Vorak said quietly, nearly every ship in the galactic fleet contains adapted human technology. We have been using human innovations for generations without giving credit to their creators. Jake felt anger building inside him as he learned the truth. So you stole our designs, and then told everyone that humans were too stupid to build real spaceships? It appears that way, Captain Zexhai admitted, his blue skin turning darker with shame. The files revealed even more disturbing information. Jake's grandfather, Bill Murphy, had been one of the test pilots whose flights were secretly recorded and studied. The piloting techniques he developed became the foundation for modern Starship navigation, though his name appeared nowhere in the official records. Your grandfather was one of the most important figures in space travel history, Vorak told Jake. His innovations made safe interstellar flight possible, but his contributions were classified and hidden from public knowledge. Why? Jake asked. Because admitting that humans were superior pilots would have damaged the reputation of older galactic species, Captain Zexhai explained. It was easier to steal the technology and pretend it was always ours. Plex's gaseous form swirled with agitation. But why did the ship suddenly require human pilots now? The technology has worked fine for decades. Vorak checked his analysis again. Recent updates to the galactic fleet included new security protocols. It appears that someone programmed the ships to require genetic authorization from the original technology creators. Since the core flight systems are based on human designs, the ships now recognize only human pilots as having full authority. Someone did this deliberately, Sub-Commander Krell realized. But who would have access to reprogram the entire galactic fleet? Before anyone could answer, communication alerts began sounding throughout the ship. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Other vessels were experiencing identical problems. Ships were refusing to function until human crew members took control. Jake looked around at the alien faces surrounding him, seeing respect in their expressions for the first time since he had joined the crew. I think, he said slowly, that someone decided it was time for humans to get the recognition we deserve. Over the next few days, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Hundreds of ships had experienced the same mysterious lockout that nearly killed the Thunder Bay crew. Every vessel required a human pilot to regain full control, and suddenly, humans who had been working as janitors and maintenance workers found themselves the most valuable people in space. Jake received dozens of messages from other humans scattered throughout the galactic fleet. Many of them had stories similar to his own, dismissed by alien crews, given the worst jobs, treated like they were barely intelligent enough to clean floors. Now these same humans were being promoted to essential positions as pilots and navigators. is remarkable, Captain HFY said as he read the latest reports. There are over 3,000 human workers spread across the galactic shipping lanes. I had no idea there were so many of your people out here. We go where the work is, Jake replied. Most of us needed money to help families back on Earth. Space jobs paid better than anything we could find at home, even if the aliens treated us badly. Sub-Commander Krell approached Jake with something the human had never seen before. Respect. Jake Murphy, I must apologize for my previous behavior toward you. I now understand that I was acting out of ignorance. We all were. Navigator Yith added, his insect-like head bowing slightly. We believed what we were taught about human capabilities without questioning whether it was true. Jake felt good about their changed attitudes, but he was more interested in solving the bigger mystery. We still do not know who reprogrammed all the ships. Someone with incredible computer skills did this on purpose. The answer came 3 days later in a message that reached every ship in the galaxy simultaneously. The transmission showed an elderly human woman sitting in what looked like a small spacecraft. She had gray hair and wore simple clothes, but her eyes held a sharpness that made it clear she was extremely intelligent. My name is Ruth Baker, the woman said calmly. I am 87 years old, and I have been working as a computer programmer for the Galactic Fleet for the past 40 years. Jake felt his heart skip a beat. He recognized that name from his grandfather's stories. Ruth Baker had been one of the original human pilots, flying alongside Bill Murphy in the early days of human space exploration. I have spent decades watching my people be treated as inferior beings while aliens use technology that humans created. Ruth continued. I have seen brilliant human engineers working as maintenance staff, while aliens took credit for innovations they never could have developed themselves. The woman's expression hardened. So I decided to remind the galaxy of who really made modern space travel possible. I have been quietly updating ship systems across the fleet, adding security protocols that recognize the true creators of our navigation technology. Captain HFY stared at the screen in amazement. One human woman did this to the entire galactic fleet? Ruth Baker was always the smartest person in any room, Jake said with growing admiration. My grandfather used to say she could make computers do things that their own programmers never imagined. Ruth's message continued. I am not interested in revenge or domination. I simply want humans to receive the respect and recognition they deserve. Every ship in this galaxy flies using human innovations. It is time that fact became impossible to ignore. The transmission showed technical documents proving everything Vorak had discovered, detailed records of how human flight systems were stolen, how human pilots were secretly studied, and how alien governments conspired to hide the truth for decades. These files are now being broadcast to every planet in the galaxy, Ruth announced. The truth can no longer be hidden. Humans are not primitive creatures who got lucky. We are the species that made safe interstellar travel possible. Over the following weeks, the galaxy transformed. Human pilots became the most sought-after crew members on every ship. Jake found himself promoted to Chief Navigation Officer of the Thunder Bay, with a salary 10 times larger than his old maintenance job. More importantly, the alien crew members had genuinely changed their attitudes. Captain HFY began asking Jake for advice on difficult navigation problems. Chief Engineer Vorak started studying human engineering techniques to improve his own work. Even Navigator Yith admitted that humans had spatial awareness abilities that his own species lacked. I have been thinking, Captain HFY said one day as they prepared for another supply run. Perhaps the Thunder Bay should recruit more human crew members. We could benefit from your people's different approach to problems. Jake smiled at that suggestion. I know some good people who would be interested. My friend Pete Williams has been working in cargo handling on the ship Stellar Wind. He has piloting experience too. Excellent, send him a message. We will offer him a position as backup navigator. The changes went beyond just individual ships. Human space academies that had been considered jokes were suddenly receiving funding and respect from galactic governments. Young humans who had dreamed of flying among the stars now had real opportunities to pursue those dreams. Jake established a communication network connecting human pilots across the galaxy. They shared knowledge, supported each other, and worked together to break down the remaining barriers that kept humans from advancing in galactic society. 3 months after the incident with the asteroid field, Jake received a special message. It was from Ruth Baker herself, sent privately to his personal communication device. "Hello, Jake," the message began. "I have been following your progress, and I am proud of what you have accomplished. Your grandfather, Bill, would be very proud, too." Jake felt tears forming in his eyes as he read her words. "You and the other human pilots are proving something I have believed for decades," Ruth continued. "Humans do not just have good technology, we have something even more valuable. We have the ability to work with others, to adapt, and to find solutions that pure logic cannot discover." The message included a personal note that made Jake's heart race. "I have been working on something new. Designs for ships built specifically for human pilots, incorporating everything we have learned about spaceflight. Would you be interested in testing the first prototype?" Jake looked around the bridge of the Thunder Bay, where alien crew members who had once dismissed him now treated him as an equal and valuable team member. Captain Zexai was discussing navigation plans with Sub-Commander Krell, occasionally asking Jake for his opinion. Vorak was installing new systems based on human engineering principles. The entire atmosphere had changed from one of prejudice to one of cooperation. Jake typed his response to Ruth Baker. "I would be honored to test your new ship, but I would like to bring my current crew with me if they are willing to come." He turned to Captain Zexai. "Captain, how would you feel about working on a ship designed specifically to combine human intuition with alien technical expertise?" The tall blue alien smiled, showing sharp teeth that no longer seemed threatening to Jake. "Human Jake Murphy, I believe that sounds like the future of space travel." Jake looked out at the stars beyond the view screen, thinking about his grandfather's stories and Ruth Baker's determination to set things right. Humans had finally taken their proper place among the stars, not as conquerors but as equals who brought unique gifts to the galactic community. The Thunder Bay's next mission would take them to new systems, new challenges, and new opportunities, to prove that cooperation between species was stronger than the arrogance of any single group. Jake placed his hands on the navigation controls, feeling the ship respond to his touch like an old friend, welcoming him home.